Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show. Gigi and I are here today to meet with an amazing guest that is going to talk about the karma of healing. And before I introduce our guest, I want to just talk about the fact that every time I'm scheduled to do one of these shows, the universe just provides amazing opportunities, amazing tests, amazing something to just go, oh, wow, okay, there you go. I know I shared about that in my last show. I talked about how I have these just bizarre miracles show up right before the show. Well, the same thing happened with this one. I was driving home and I was about to get on the freeway, and there was a man sitting in a wheelchair, and he had a little tiny sign that said help, and he was missing a leg. And I just looked at him, and for those of you that have never experienced seeing people asking for help on a freeway entrance, it's not uncommon where I live. In fact, every day there's at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people asking for money. And I usually look at them and I smile and I, send them good energy or whatever. But this man, I just felt totally obsessed about giving him some money. So I reached into my wallet, I handed him some money, and he was so grateful. And as I was driving home, it just moved me to tears. And I just felt like something had been cleaned up, something karmic had been cleaned up by doing that. And I didn't have any expectations about what would show up from my gesture, but I just knew that something would. It just felt like energetically there was a give and a receive going on. And like I said, I let go of my expectations. I didn't expect somebody to hand me money, but yesterday I got a kind of an unexpected check in the mail, and I thought, okay, here we go. Thank you, universe. So this life has been all about cleaning up karma. I've been in touch with a past life that was pretty horrible, very negative regarding finances and, taking money from people. And I'm very aware of that lifetime. I've been aware of it for years. It was shocking at first to discover it. But once I did, everything in my life started to make sense. It's like, oh, no wonder I have all these financial issues. Oh, yeah. So I've really dedicated my life to cleaning it up, even if I don't know the details. And I think that's important to understand about karma. You don't need to know what it is you're cleaning up. It's just kind of like when the universe presents these things, you take action with it and things do get cleaned up. So with that in mind, I want to introduce my guest today, Dr. Lynn Anderson. And let me tell you a little bit about Lynn. I'm just going to read it because there's so much going on in her life that I don't want to miss anything. She's a naturopath, yoga nutritional therapist, fitness professional, karma master, which, that's why we're talking about karma today. She's a published author, international speaker, video producer with over 30 years experience in the field of natural, holistic health, healing, and fitness. She's been on various national publications, TV networks, and podcasts. She's the author and producer of the Soul Walking series, Karma, Prosperity, Vitality, and the Naturopathic Wellness Series, the Yoga of Nutrition and Recipes for Health, Sex, Happiness, and Love, as well as her proactive workouts, DVDs, and TV with international distribution. And I love this. She wrote something called Burnout. It happens to all of us. She offers weekly online Zoom classes and therapy classes, and she's helped thousands of people establish balanced health, reduce stress, along with offers to proactive aging techniques leading to enhanced quality of life. Is there nothing that you don't do?
Well, first I have to say that, that's about 40 years of work. So
Yes,
we have, it's when people read that, they go, wow, how did you do all of that? Well, 40 years is a long time. So yes, it's been 40 years of work.
yes, me too. So we're in good company here.
Right.
So I'm really thrilled to talk with you, Dr. Lynn. And I want to, first of all, because we are talking about karma, I'd love to get your definition of what you mean by karma. I have my own definition. I've got all kinds of silly examples, but how do you define karma?
Well, the first thing I always start with is we can't look at the pop culture, good and bad karma. And that's what
Yes,
pop culture, oh, if I do something bad, something bad's going to happen to me.
right.
Karma is really void of judgment. And if you think in terms of good and bad, that's judgment. So
Mhm.
karma simply is we are all here and we all have a task here, something that we've come here to work on according to karma. And that is the path that we take. And our karma is affected by what we think, what we say, and what we do. So it's the energy we put out that comes back. And I like to give a good example of, let's say that I go out and I steal something and I never get caught. Okay. I'm still a thief.
Yes.
And for the rest of my life, I will be looking over my shoulder, wondering when I'm going to get caught and ducking and lying. So I have set up a negative, we call it a negative karma at that point. So that's an example of it's not necessarily that I go steal something, I get caught, I get put in jail. That's it. Sometimes we do things and we don't directly get that hit back, but it trails and it affects every aspect of our life.
Yes. And I find, well, here's my crazy definition of karma that I give to my students all the time, and they always laugh, but it's the only one they ever remember. Karma is like chewing a piece of bubble gum, taking it out of your mouth, throwing it on the ground, turning around, stepping in it, and then being pissed off at that horrible person that threw karma through the bubble gum on the ground instead of realizing I did that and I just created my own karma.
Exactly.
That's exactly how I define it. It's just very simple, cause and effect, you
Cause
know.
and effect.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It comes down to cause and effect. That's simply what it is. It's all about energy.
yeah,
That's all we are. We're balls of energy, and the energy you put out is the energy you create. That's how,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's what really the basis of karma.
yeah. I find also that most of the time, because we're basically good humans, we're here to remember that about ourselves and to give and receive love. But a lot of times we do things like the chewing gum example. We forget, quote unquote, that we did it. And then we get pissed off when we attract the karma. But the karma is really just trying to wake us up and go, hey, remember, you're the one that threw that gum on the ground. Hello.
Exactly. It's an opportunity to work it through, but unfortunately, most people throw up walls. We have the victim mentality or not me, or, we rather than addressing what's happening, another example would be anger. If anger keeps showing up in your life and you keep encountering people that create this anger within you, you're carrying the anger. You create the anger. And when you step back and you say, wait a minute, I feel the anger. I know what it feels like in me. I know what that anger is. I'm going to address the anger within myself. And when you come back, those people don't come in your life anymore. Or if they do show up, you can very politely remove them and then you create harmony. But what do
Mhm.
most of us do? If you say something and it makes me angry, I'm angry at you, and we keep going and we're right into it rather than addressing the real issue, which is to
Yeah.
work your karma.
Yeah, which is to see what it is you're angry about towards yourself in some
E-
way.
Exactly.
I'm angry that I threw that bubble gum on the ground and stepped in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I guess I should ask you, how did you get started in all this? Where does all of this come from in your life?
Well, the very first beginnings of, I grew up on a small island off the coast of Maine, and I grew up in a small fishing village. And my grandmother and my mother and, the women on the island, we had folk medicine. We didn't have a doctor. So a lot of times, for minor things, we would be treated with folk medicine. So I kind of grew up around that holistic thing of, you eat whatever the fisherman brought in, that's what you ate that night. But we were eating healthy. We didn't know it. We were eating organic long before anybody ever called it organic.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me on to that kind of a path. But I went back to school as a single mother. I had 2 children and I was broke. I had no money. I was on welfare. I was, but I was determined I was going to get my degree. And I went back to the University of Maine and I worked really, really hard, doing work study programs and bartending at kids in school and everything, got myself through school. And at the end of it, I had what I call a burnout. I had a crash and burn because I had been dealing with tremendous amount of stress, trying to, and I'm a type A personality, I had to have a 4.0 when I graduated. I did, and I got a 3.8, but that's pretty good, And so I had this crash and burn, and the crash and burn was physical, mental, and soulful. And that was the turning point. That was where I took my background and I started working in holistic medicine. And I also started working in yoga and karma and working and realizing that, as we say, as naturopaths, we believe that you are body, mind, and soul. And all three of those must be integrated and balanced to create perfect health. So that's what got me on my mission.
Wow. Wow. And so, well, let's go back to talking about karma. How does that fit with healing? Because I know that, I've had students that have gotten in touch with past life memories where they've done things to other people, hurt other bodies, or, things like that. And then they bring that with them and their body manifests illness. Is that sort of what you're talking about? Maybe explain what you mean.
Yeah, in a sense it is, because again, we go back to, we are energy, and the body is a machine. The body is here, and according to karma, it's here to carry the soul. The soul's got a mission, and so we use the body is here, and we picked this body. According to karma, we came back, we picked this body, we picked everything in our life in order to work out our mission. And so when we begin to take in, we all know that scientifically we can look at stress and burnout. We know what that does to the physiology of the body. We know what it does, and it creates illness. Well, so it's the same thing. When you're dealing with all of these things and the mental things, and you've got that heaviness you're carrying, then it's going to manifest itself within you physically. And so how do we remove that? Well, stress is the number one problem that, in terms of illness. So it's coming back and dealing with, what are the things that you need to deal with that need to bring peace and harmony, not just to your body, but to your mind and to your soul.
Yeah. So, okay, going back to what you said about the fact that we choose our everything. So we would choose a body that we know is going to manifest. This one student I'm thinking of, she had a heart issue, and what she got in touch with in terms of a past life was causing a death by stabbing somebody in a heart, and she brought that with her and manifested that as a physical problem. So is that kind of what you're talking about in terms of choosing?
Yes. Well, according to karma, what happens is karma believes in reincarnation. So what happens is we leave a prior life and we go to what's called the holdover place. And the holdover place is a place of reflection, but it's void of emotions and feelings, because those are human things. So it's a reflection on, what did I do in my past life? What amends do I need to make? What do I need to clean up? And how and where can I best suit that? Who are the two parents that I can come together with, two people who can create me and put me in a situation where I can deal with, what it is that I need to come back and work on. So, and we have sort of an amnesia when we come back, because we come back and we don't remember the holdover place, and we don't remember the past lives until we do some work. And there will be certain things, as you know, that will pop up, deja vus and things like that will give you insights into a past life. But we come back here in order to work this through. And according to karma, it really doesn't matter if you work it through or not, because we keep cycling. If you don't work it through, okay, you're going to come back again. It behooves you to work on it, because it behooves you to evolve, all of us to evolve soulfully. So yeah, but we come back and we have to work through these things.
So you don't really need to remember what you're working through. You just know that, like I said earlier, whatever is presented to you in some way is showing you your karma.
Right. You come in and you step into this life situation, and if you observe, which is a very difficult thing for all of us as human beings to do, to step back from the feelings and emotions and observe life for what it really is. Life is really an opportunity. It is an opportunity to grow. And it is not a place where it will be void of destruction. It will not be void of war. It will not be void of famine. Those things have happened since the beginning of time. So it's not that we're looking for some utopia. It's that, how do we find balance amongst the chaos of the world? Because it'll always be chaotic, because that's the nature of energy. Energy, destruction and creation, is very chaotic. And so how do we find our balance within it? That's really the key.
Yeah, it's chaotic, and yet it's very organized in terms of when you look back, it's like, oh, no wonder I had to go through that. No wonder this happened. And no wonder, it all makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. We grow as we go through those experiences, but whenever something happens to you, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to see it for what it is. There's an opportunity to grow and change, or you can become the victim. Right? You can and not see it and put up that wall, and it's just going to keep happening and happening. And we all have something in our lives that keeps reoccurring, keeps coming up, until we finally one day go, wait a minute, there's a theme here. How can I address this theme? And when we do that, it's like a switch. It totally changes the direction of your life.
Yeah. And I find also that until you locate that theme, or at least acknowledge it in you, nothing works,
That's correct. You won't have healthy relationships. Your jobs, your career, all of the things that are important to us in our earthly world, they just have these twists and things until you realize, how to step back and observe and work the karma, because that's what karma means. It means work. It's not easy. It's a work.
Or as they say, karma is a bitch, right?
Yes, exactly. And, it's human nature to not want to work, to not want to work through these things. It's human nature to want everything to be idyllic, everything to be, and yes, we would all like to be in that place, but that's not life. Mm-hmm. Life has to show us all feelings, all emotions. That's what we're here to experience.
Yeah. So, I have so many questions. So, there's a school of thought, and I've read this in several spiritual publications, and I agree with it to an extent. And that is that once you get past, like you said, judging that this was bad and this was good, once you see that it's just about balancing things out and completing things and cleaning things up, and to not label things as bad or good, the whole idea of karma kind of goes away in a sense. I mean, if you could completely live your life from that place, I think everything would be different. But I think because we're humans and we're in these physical bodies and we do feel pain and hurt and loss and all that stuff that we go through, I think it's kind of hard to reach the point of saying, oh, that was perfect.
Well, it's sort of like, let's say you are married, and we all know marriage is a challenge. A relationship is a challenge. And if the person, your spouse, does something that irritates you, you can fall into the irritation, you can get into it, and then you're both in a fight and an argument, and but you can also step back and observe and say, wow, and observe what they're going through and what they're doing and how that energy affects, because that's only energy coming at you. It's not irritation, it's not anger, it's just energy. And how you can, to step back and observe, take a breath, contemplate Find stillness. Think before you speak and before you act. That's very difficult for all of us to do when we're caught up in the emotion and the feelings of being a human. And so that's what it means by work. It takes a lot of work to catch yourself and say, wait, let me observe this situation and see it for what it really is. As humans, we jump right into the emotion and feelings.
Yeah. So how does that fit with allowing ourselves to feel what we're feeling so that we can release it?
Well, we are here to feel all feelings and emotions, we don't want to feel, the disappointments and the angers, but that's part of being a human. That's part of understanding what it's like to be a human. So it's important to have feelings. It's what you do with those feelings. Do you get caught up in the feelings and do you allow them to control your life? Do you allow them to pull you into that hole, or do you see them as an opportunity to understand what it's like to be a human, what it's like to be here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or to feel them so that you can release them and understand that it's something about yourself showing up and you don't have to take action with them.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
It's always hard for us humans to do that because it's our natural inclination is to go, that person's a jerk and I want to slap him,
Exactly. Yeah. And it's very natural to me because we get triggered by our emotions and feelings. And really to be able to pull back, think about it, that something upset you and you could just stop for a moment and catch your breath and calm yourself down and see it as an opportunity and then move forward in a positive way. That takes a lot of backtracking and a lot of balancing to be able to do that.
Yeah. And to also see it as attracting some karma. My husband said this horrible thing and it pissed me off. Now, what is this a karma? What have I done that's similar? What is the mirror that he's showing me?
Exactly. That's a very good thing. It's a mirror. Yeah, because that's what we do. We put up things and we show, but we don't always want to look at that reflection,
Yeah.
We want to deflect rather than look. Yeah. It's
It's
all your fault that you did,
That's the biggest challenge that I'm faced every day with my students because I talk a lot about mirroring. It's like my big thing that I get into with people. And even after 20 weeks of talking about it, people are still like, oh, that's a mirror. Yes, it's a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even now, with all the political stuff going on, and I kind of gently bring that up to my students. It's like, yeah, even those political people doing those things that are driving us crazy, they are mirrors too. And we've chosen them. They've chosen this incarnation to help us clean up some huge karma,
Well, I read somewhere once, and this was, I read Hitler, and they used Hitler as an example, and they said Hitler was a great example to humanity because Hitler showed us two things. He showed us how horrible humans could be, but he also showed us how wonderful humans could be, how we could come together as humanity and we could stand together. So he was very important to come into the world to help us see that. And it's just another way of looking at when horrible things happen, such as we'll take the Boston Marathon, when they blew up the people with the bombs. Horrific, horrible. But the people that came, that rallied, that helped those people, that held them, that called and took care of them, that's just a wonderful tribute to humanity.
Yeah.
And that's what's important.
Yeah. Yes. And, things we're going through right now are just reawakening that in us and allowing us to see, excuse me, the incredible teachings that are available to us from all the stuff that's going on.
Right. Yeah. Everyone is a teacher, even those that we don't, certainly nobody would say, oh, well, Hitler. I mean, nobody would praise Hitler, but he was a teacher. He taught us something. If we stop and we look at what humanity is capable of doing, it's capable of going in two directions, destruction, creation. And so if we look at those things and we learn from them not to do that, not to repeat that, then we've worked through these things.
Yeah. And of course, he's showing us our deepest denial of our own violence and our own anger and our own judgmentalness and all of that.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So just to remind everybody, I'm talking to Dr. Lynn Anderson, and we need to take a couple-minute break here. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about karma and why your body does what it does and all kinds of stuff. So we'll be right back.
OMTimes TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I'm Royce, and I am talking to Dr. Lynn Anderson today about karma and healing and all kinds of fun stuff. I wanted to share another little story that happened the other day. I have a radio station that I access that only plays songs from the 60s. And I was listening to it kind of out of the corner of my ear. And I started realizing, oh my gosh, how many people from the 60s, how many of these amazing rock stars and singers had died from the 60s at very young ages, you know? And I mean, Janis Joplin and all these people, and most of them, of course, were drugs. And I started to think, why? It again moved me to tears. I'm still not over losing John Lennon, and it's coming up to his birthday, and it always moves me to tears. But what are your thoughts about why they would choose that particular lesson or that particular way to reach us, or that particular death?
Are you talking about why they would choose that? Why they would use drugs and things like that?
Yeah.
Well, mostly
Speaking. Uh-oh, she's frozen. We are experiencing a frozen person here. So, okay, start over. Okay, you froze there for a minute, so I wasn't able to hear your answer to that.
Oh, I was saying that people.
Oh,
I keep losing you.
Oh, technology.
Are we there?
Yes,
Okay.
we're there.
Okay.
Try to
Yeah, they switched us. We're in different on my screen. That's good. Maybe this will work. But addiction is really it's a running away from things. You don't want to address things on. So it's easy to sort of take a drug, alcohol, stuff like that. Why would someone choose to do something like that? Mostly, I would say that it's consciously blocking yourself from understanding what you're really doing to your body. Your body, when you abuse your body with drugs and alcohol, eventually the body's going to break down. And sometimes people have, what happens is, well, let's back this up a little bit. As human beings, we are hardwired for pleasure. And pleasure is very important in this life. And sometimes people get confused and they think, oh, if I go the spiritual path, I can't have any pleasure. I can't enjoy a glass of wine, can't enjoy anything in life. It's not true. It's not true. We are hardwired for that. And without pleasure, there would not be procreation. There would not be innovation. There would not be creation. Those things would not happen. It is a natural thing. When we get into trouble is when we follow that pleasure thing and we tip it to the other side and it goes to extreme. So that's what happens in cases like that. It starts out as a pleasurable thing and then it kind of flips over into something that takes it to extremes. And you mentioned Janis Joplin. I saw Janis Joplin live. I just thought I'd bring that up. Yes. And she lived a very short life, but she lived a very hard life. Very hard life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I understand why certain people choose that route of, needing drugs and pleasure and all of that. But what about in terms of karma? Would they have brought something like that with them, that on some level they knew that they needed to destroy themselves for their own lessons or to teach lots of other people?
Right. Most likely they weren't even consciously aware of it,
Right.
but it is true. Karma teaches us that when we reincarnate, we come in percentages, there's different percentages in our life. And the length of our life is only 5%. It's a very small, because karma says it's not the length of your life, it's the quality of your life that counts. So it's not really about living a long life. It's what did you do in what time that you had. And so sometimes people come here and it's only for a short journey to leave a particular lesson. And if the lesson was, let's say that young people saw Janis Joplin die of an overdose of drugs and people were able, whoa, I'm going to start doing those drugs. I don't want to get into that trouble. Then she's left a lesson for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yet the drug epidemic now is just crazy huge. Yeah.
But that comes back to one of the great passions that karma teaches us is greed. And if you look at the drug epidemic now and you look at big pharma and you look at what's going on, it's all about greed. It all has to do with money and greed. If you take that equation, if you take greed out of human life, boy, it's going to change things tremendously. Think about if all we had was generosity.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And
I'm not going to win anything for that. Believe me, I'm not going to win anything with politicians or with business people on that one.
I think because of all the stuff that's going on, I think a lot of people are learning that lesson. I really do. And I think that the fact that we're being exposed to what big pharma does and we're being exposed to what politicians are, who they're getting paid by and why, I think eventually we are going to learn that just doesn't work. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. But
right. Well, it's interesting because if you talk to the general person and you say to them they don't trust anyone in government or any side of the government, most people will say yes, they do not trust them. So it's even though we have a two-party system, nobody trusts either party. So we've kind of fallen into a place, and part of it is as of the pandemic, where we don't trust our doctors, we don't trust our lawyers, we don't trust the justice system, we don't trust our politicians. It goes on and on and on, and then it circles. So who are you going to trust? You better trust yourself.
Yeah.
You got to come back and you've got to trust yourself, and you've got to be grounded in your moral and ethical grounding in order to move forward in this world. And that's a big lesson.
Yeah. And to remember that our bottom line reason for choosing to incarnate is to remember who we really are and to give and receive love. As I said earlier, it's pretty simple.
Exactly. Well, I tell my students, you don't take any of the drama or any of the stress or any of the problems with you when you depart this world. What you do take is the love you've given and received. That's what you
Yes.
take. But the rest of this stuff, so we get all caught up in the drama and the problems and all this stuff when we don't realize that these are just opportunities to work through your karma.
Yeah.
See them for what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And to clean up that bubble gum that you dropped.
Exactly. I'm not going to walk near you. Oh.
So I wanted to ask you, what do you tell people in terms of ways to, besides the obvious ways to not do things like that anymore, but what do you tell people in terms of how do you clean karma up? Is it possible? Is it feasible? Especially if you've manifested something in your body, because even if you heal your body, even if you find the best doctor and you get healed, that doesn't mean that you've cleaned up your karma. So what do you recommend for that?
Well, it's conscious awareness. It all begins with awareness. If
Yeah.
you're aware that you've got a pain in your body, you're going to go to the doctor and say to the doctor, I got a pain in my body, and hopefully it's going to be taken care of. It's awareness of how you're conducting yourself through life, awareness of what you're experiencing. It all begins with awareness. And as human beings, we are, as evolved as we think we are, we're very good at turning that off. I don't
Yeah.
want to be aware of anything. I'm just going to, instead of stepping back and being aware of who you are and how you work within this world that you live in.
Yeah. And do you recommend that they get in touch with their past lives so they are more aware of these things?
I do and I don't. I'm not really that much into past life regression. I don't really work with people on that, but I do tell them to pay attention to the deja vus. Pay attention to what are you drawn to? You're drawn to certain things. You're drawn to certain food. You're drawn to certain countries, there's certain things that will tell you something about past lives that you have lived. For example, I am extremely drawn to France and to that part of Europe. And in a past life regression, I actually found myself there. And I found myself in a situation where I was hiding. I was hiding because I had this big basket of herbs and I was being followed because if you practice that, that's when you were called a witch. That's called witchcraft back then. And so I was hiding. And that was one of the things that made me open up into the direction I took in karma and holistic healing, because I realized that I was going into business, I was doing different things, trying to make money, and I was kept pressing myself down and I wasn't happy.
Mhm.
And as soon as I stopped hiding and I came out and I said, I don't care who calls me a witch. Doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I want to do. And when I did start out in naturopathy, I was called a quack. I was called a witch, for working with nutrition and herbs, things that today, it's all acceptable.
Yeah. I think that's a really good example of the importance of remembering a past life so that you can realize, oh, forget that. I'm not going to care if people call me a witch. And I see now why I'm drawn to this.
Exactly. And then you find when that happens, you find within yourself, you're following a passion. There's an energy, there's an enthusiasm, and it's like, wow, life looks really different when you're following your path. Very
Yes.
different than when you keep doing what everybody else tells you to do, or you get caught up in, I need to make $1 million. I need to have this house. I need to, we get caught up in the material world.
Yeah. It's interesting when you mentioned that past life. I remember I had been teaching for probably 10 years or so. And every time I would get a new class going and I would be teaching it, there'd be this little voice in the back of my head going, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're just making all this up. And I know. I got in touch with a past lifetime, in fact, several past lifetimes where I was teaching this stuff and that I didn't complete it. and I didn't do all that I was supposed to do with it. And we're talking, hundreds of years of doing that. And what that awakened in me was, I do know what I'm talking about, and I am supposed to do this. And it really validated why I chose this life and why this path was presented to me. So I think that's really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because if you become aware, if you listen to your soul, you have to tame the ego,
Yeah.
and you listen to the voice of the soul, because the soul sits back there and says, I'm not usurping anybody. I'm back here. You want to get in touch with me? Come back and get in touch with me. And when you come back and you get in touch, you realize your path. You realize the direction you're going. And even if it doesn't make any sense, if you follow that path, you will always find your true path in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I remembered reading something in the very beginning of when I was teaching. I forget, it might have been a story that Ram Dass told, or something. And the story is that there are some Eastern religions that believe so strongly in karma that the monks literally walk around barefoot, and they're terrified to step even on an ant. They're so concerned with karma that anything and everything they do is about, I might have stepped on an ant today. Oh my gosh. How do you feel about kind of, I guess, maybe turning it into sort of an obsession like that? Because how can you not step on ants when you're walking?
Exactly. Or slap a mosquito who's biting you. I mean, because mosquitoes carry things, we have to pay attention to those things. And again, that comes back to, there's always this image of this austere life that we should live and give up all these material things, and we should not enjoy our life. And that's not really what it's about. We're here to enjoy life, to enjoy things. If I enjoy, let's say, a glass of wine, and I really enjoy that glass of wine, and it's the grapes, and I enjoy where it came from, and that's a pleasure. Okay, it's not that I shouldn't have that, or I shouldn't eat chocolate, or I shouldn't eat desserts, or I mean, we have all these shouldn't. It's all about moderation. So when you go to, I'm not even going to step on an ant, you're going to extreme, and that's not karma. That's not what it's about. It's about balance. It's being right on, they call it the edge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the coming and the going of the moon. It's right there. You want to be right at that center point. And that's, I think, going to extreme in the other direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as I recall, the rest of that story was the main point of it. And he said that they realize that they can't not step on an ant. So everything they do is about cleaning up karma, even if they don't know that they've stepped on an ant. So I think that's an important addition to that story. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
But we are here to, we're not here to live this, again, this austere life. It's all about how to balance things out. I mean, everybody likes a great meal. Okay, everybody likes a nice meal, and but do you have a nice meal and then do you go and snack all night? That's an example. Or do you enjoy the nice meal and that's it? You've fueled your body. You don't have to keep going. That's the difference.
Or feel guilty about having a nice meal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Talking about that ant story just brought back an interesting memory. One of my students, I used to teach out of my living room, and one of my students was absolutely terrified of spiders. And suddenly she looked down and there was a spider coming at her on the floor. And I'm one of these people that when I see a spider, I put it in a little cup and I take it outside. I just do that because I think spiders are wonderful. And so instead of stopping her, because I saw her raise her foot, I guess, and stomp it, I didn't say anything. I just let her do it. And and she's like, oh God, I'm so glad I killed that spider. And she was all excited about it. The very next day I woke up and I was covered with spider bites. Oh God, karma.
Yeah.
I didn't stop her from killing that spider, and look at what happened. So that kind of thing, that when we don't listen to ourselves, or, in your example, if you don't end up being a naturopath or whatever, you don't take action, karma will bite you in the butt, as they say.
Exactly. It's, it's not, if I follow my karma, everything's in my life is going to be copacetic and I'm going to just breeze through life. No, karma is going to present me with obstacles every day. And it's what I do with those obstacles. Can I turn those around to opportunities? Can I make them characteristics that help me enhance my life rather than hurt my life?
Yes.
That's the whole key.
Yes. Yay. Amen. So I know that you need to leave in about a minute. So can you tell people how to get in touch with you, what you offer? Just do some
Sure.
self-promotion.
They can go to my website. It's drlynn.com, and it's spelled out doctorlynn.com. And if you go there, you can find my classes, you can find my consultations, you can find my books, my DVDs, all of that stuff will be there. And, I have a free newsletter, so people are welcome to get in touch with me.
Great. And so you offer individual sessions as well as classes?
Yes, I do. Yeah, there's a place for private consultations, and then we have online classes and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate talking about karma. Like I said, it's one of my passions to talk about that. And I wish you all the best karma in the world.
Well, thank you very much. I so much enjoyed being here, and I hope that we will do it again someday.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks. So here I am, all yours for just a few minutes. I didn't know that Dr. Lynn had to leave early, so I'm not completely prepared to talk to you, but I thought since we're talking about karma, I would just like to add a little bit more about it. Again, karma just means cause and effect. And remember my bubblegum example. And I think the problem with karma, well, if not really a problem, but what happens with karma is that we forget that we're the ones that took the bubblegum out of our mouth and threw it on the ground. That's, what our lower consciousness does all the time. And then we spend our life suppressing it and denying it. And we attract all of this karma to wake us up, because that's really what karma is. It's a wake-up call to have us remember what we did to set up stepping on that bubble gum. And to me, it really shows that the universe is operating in a very orderly fashion. It's a very, there's no coincidences, there's no accidents, because we could have theoretically dropped the gum on the ground and not turned around and stepped in it, but somebody else might have. So karma is always perfect. As I was saying before, I've had all kinds of experiences this lifetime with financial karma, and I look back on it and it all makes sense, because that's what I created for myself. That's why I chose this life. So the work that I do is about helping people peel back the layers so that they can remember that they threw the gum on the ground in this life or in a past life, so that they can wake up and be conscious of what's going on and discover why they're attracting all of these things. So I think it's a very powerful thing to do. And karma, to me, is kind of like a natural law. It's kind of like gravity. Again, it's just, there's no cause without a prior effect. You throw a stone into the lake and you're going to see the ripple effect. That's what happens, karmically speaking. We attract karma to wake us up. As I said, we attract it to show us what we've done. And it just shows us that everything's trying to balance out. As Dr. Lynn was saying, it's not a punishment. There's no judgment of bad or good. It's just waking us up to show us what we've done so that we can clean it up. There's no judgment. But unfortunately, when we do step in that bubble gum, we get pissed off. We judge that terrible person for throwing the gum on the ground instead of seeing it as an opportunity, a wake-up call. And a lot of times it gives us the, quote, justification to throw more bubble gum on the ground. So that's a real important fact about karma. It's not punishment. It's just an assisting way to help us remember what we've done. We are the only ones that know when our karma is complete. So I know people sometimes say to me, God, I don't want to remember all those horrible things I've done. I'll feel like a terrible person. Well, it's not about feeling like it's a terrible person. It's about helping us so that we can clean it up so that we know when it's complete. So when you stole $1,000 from somebody and you've repaid $1,000, you know that it's complete. Unfortunately, again, our lower consciousness says, oh, it's never complete because we're a bad person and we need to repay $10,000. No, it doesn't work that way. But we like to think that it's never complete. And again, as Dr. Lynn was saying, and as I was agreeing with, is that on some level, we know our karma, we know the internal sense of what we're here to do. And so it's up to us to be aware of it and to notice that, why am I attracting all these people to steal money from me, or all these gums that I keep stepping on? So it's all about waking us up. And we are complete with our karma when we learned everything that we're supposed to learn from it. And that's not just personal knowledge, it's global. Like I was saying about all the stuff going on right now, politically and environmentally. We're all here to learn important lessons from what's going on. So what is it we're supposed to learn? It could be that we're not supposed to abuse our bodies, or we're not supposed to, have this greed, as Dr. Lynn was saying. So we're supposed to learn some big lessons. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, karma is not something you can intellectualize. It's not something that you can go, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. It's something that you have to experience. And it doesn't have to be painful and dramatic and traumatic, but it is something that you kind of have to experience. If somebody had said to me 50 years ago, gosh, Royce, you're going to go through all this financial stuff to learn some really important lessons, I might have said, oh, okay, fine. I might have made some different choices, but I still would have to experience it. I would have to go through losses. I would have to go through lots of things in order to get the lessons from it. And once we really learn and accept that we are higher consciousness, spiritual beings, here to remember that we are love, that karmic thinking that I was talking about earlier starts to go away, because we don't see it as punishment. We see it as incredible wake-up calls to get us to love and to get us out of fear. So, and I know this is hard. This is like the hardest thing that I ever tell my students, and they all kind of go, ugh. But once we know that the higher self, our higher consciousness, does not see anything as bad or good or harmful or devastating, once we see on a higher consciousness spiritual level that nothing we ever did really caused harm, that our role was to help wake up people as well. So by me throwing the gum on the ground, maybe I woke up somebody. Maybe they got to experience completing their karma of when they threw bubble gum on the ground. So the higher self sees it all as perfect, and there is no judgment of right or wrong or harm. So it's rising above all of that stuff. That is what our goal is. So what else can I say about karma? Karma is sometimes literally showing us a mirror of our worst fears. So if your worst fear is having money stolen from you, that's what you're going to attract, because it's going to show you that there's something you need to see about that. Why is that your worst fear? Sometimes on a higher consciousness level, again, going back to the higher consciousness lesson about being here to learn about who we really are and to learn about love, we will attract karmic situations consciously. We're asking for those situations to be attracted into our life so that we can get to that point, so that we can evolve. So again, it's all chosen. It's something that we need to learn, and we have literally chosen it so that we can learn those lessons. And that expression, you're never given more than you can handle. Well, the same thing with karma. We're never given too much karma so that we can't handle it. Everything is given to us because it knows, the universe knows what we can handle and what we're here to do. So, trust the fact that you're strong enough to handle whatever it is that's going on. And whatever the amount we need to awaken us is what's given to us. And the last thing I want to say, because I know I only have about a minute, is that we can always complete and handle karma. It's something that we chose. We are strong enough, we're aware enough, we're wise enough, we are loving enough so that we can handle karma that's given to us. And like I said before, we know when it's complete. We know when that $1,000 that we stole has been repaid, and we can stop beating ourselves up about that, because remember, everything is agreed upon. The person we stole it from needed to have us steal the money so that they could wake up and look at their karma. So it's all agreed upon. If you'd like to know more about your karma experientially and get in touch with your lifetimes that are perhaps setting all of this up for you, reach out to me, roycemorales.com. I take people where they're ready to go in terms of their spiritual development. I've got classes and I do inner private work with people. So reach out and discover the karma that you're here to experience. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, and go clean up your karma.